Hey guys, it's Jedi Lex, and this past weekend I attended Spookala, which was hosted at the Florida State Fairgrounds in Tampa, Florida. We got there a little bit early and got our wristbands, and then went to go join this massive line. As soon as they opened the doors, we went right to finding the Rebels voice actors, and I first got into Vanessa Marshall's line, so that way I could have her sign my Hera pop. She was an absolute joy to talk to and was so nice. Next, we got into Taylor Gray's line, so that way I could have him sign my Ezra pop, and honestly, he is a super cool dude. I even got to see him take some pictures with some people in cosplay, and a few more cosplayers showed up, so I asked if I could take a picture with them as well. After getting my pop signed, we started to walk around the convention to take a look at all the booths and vendors that were there. We first went to the Pop Fandom Toys booth, which had a bunch of really dope Star Wars pops that were a little bit more on the pricey side, like Jar Jar Binks, Lando Calrissian, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Freddie Funko as Han, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Luke Skywalker. And then we went to the Gomez Trades booth, which had a decent amount of Star Wars Funko Pops, so honestly, it was quite enjoyable to look through all the pops that they had, because there wasn't really that many Funko Pop vendors at this convention. The next booth that we went to was Brittany Ann Art's booth, which had some really awesome Star Wars art, and I think my favorite piece at this booth had to be this Friends-themed Clone War art. Then we went to another booth that was right near it that had these really dope Darth Maul and Darth Vader figures that I've never seen before, even though they were a little dusty. The last booth that we went to was Godriguez's booth, which had this really sick pinhead Grogu. After checking out all the booths at the convention, we got some delicious food from the food truck and then got our front row seats to the Rebels panel and waited for it to start. The first clip is of the question that I asked and the answer that they provided, and the rest of the clips are some of the other answers that I just wanted to share because I truly enjoyed this panel and getting to hear what Vanessa and Taylor, or Hera and Ezra, had to say about filming Rebels.
Hey, so my name is Lex, and I'm a huge fan of Rebels, and I myself have taken a lot from the show, but I'm wondering what your biggest takeaway was from playing the characters Hera and Ezra.
It's a great question.
I love stories about chosen family, and I'm an only child, and I grew up on a block with I think 40 kids, and so I'm used to kind of having a big crew, and it felt to me like what I said earlier, that the Star Wars Rebels core cast created a core family, and the offshoots into reality of all the people that I've met at different conventions who I'm connected to, and I really do, I connect with people on Instagram at these things and we stay in touch. I feel like, especially in the pandemic, I was by myself in the pandemic, so I remember I kept saying to myself, I miss my family, and I meant you guys, I missed the records every Thursday, because we started doing stuff, in our closets or, whatever we had to do, but I felt like, I remember in the Disney, we got a Bible at the beginning, and it said that some bonds are stronger than blood, and that's what this show was about, is creating those bonds. So for me, that was the most impactful. Still is.
Yeah, we took so much from it, and it's the longest I've ever been on a show. Every other show has been canceled after a couple seasons. And this, you grew up with this character, and I remember telling Dave multiple times that some of the lines, because I was also very similar in age to Ezra, and growing up and going through the trials and tribulations of just being a human being. And I was like, oh, so many of the things that Ezra's dealing with, I'm dealing with at the same time. And that was a testament to the writing and the storytelling. But I think the coolest thing that I've really embraced from Star Wars is this idea of hope, and how important hope is, no matter what. And you can find hope anywhere if you're willing to look hard enough. And there's a sort of transcendent aspect to Ezra as well as he becomes a Jedi. I took so much from that, much more than I realized, and I think it's really, really cool and special.
Thank you, guys.
I think with these characters, obviously they were just an idea in someone's head until we brought them to life. So you do feel this sort of, you feel very connected to it, and like you had said, it is just a part of you. The way I see every character is sort of like, using an image that's in my mind, if there are 100 switches that you have that you're capable of turning on and off, every character is just a different combination of those switches that you're able to turn on and off. You can't do something that's not in your little switchboard, I guess, right? And so, also studying Shakespeare, you hand off roles sometimes in the middle of a play, where you have Hamlet for the first 2 acts and then someone takes it for the rest of it, and you're like, well, I don't own that character in any way, and it's interpretations, and you don't try and match the person before or after. but I think a lot of fans have definitely come to love these characters for what they've experienced while we've been embodying them. And so I understand that dilemma for sure, but I think it's beautiful that you get a different interpretation of different things, but you'll always feel, like I always feel like Ezra.
And like, I don't think you would ever probably turn down a screen acting position, you know.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah, same here. I wouldn't turn it down at all. Yeah, and it's very similar as a primarily voiceover actress. You know, I've played Wonder Woman in several animated films, and my favorite Wonder Woman is Susan Eisenberg from a cartoon series. And, you know, we've been at cons together, and there's no, you know, ownership of anything. We share the privilege of being able to embody these iconic female strong characters, and I love that such strong characters exist and that we get to have anything to do with them. I do understand in this particular case, we sort of had a lot to do with bringing life to ideas to create the icon, but I was overjoyed that it translated and was so impactful that it made a transition to live action. Yeah, I would be more than happy to use my services in that capacity as well. Thank you.
So I got a story for this one. I didn't even know it was Star Wars when I read for it. Actually, which is probably a good thing. I probably would have blown the audition if that was the case. When we read for it, I think all of us got the same sides that were these like made-up sides for the audition, and it was titled Wolf. So I for sure knew I was reading for the Jungle Book. But it wasn't the Jungle Book. I had sent in an audition, I think like everyone else, and then a month later ended up meeting with Dave Filoni and who was it, Greg Weisman at the time, some of the other producers and people at Disney in Glendale or wherever it was. We did a session then, still unaware that it's Star Wars, even though the sides say like light sticks and using energy. I was like, oh, it's Mowgli, isn't it? But I was completely oblivious to this and read for it, and a week later, which is kind of par for the course, my agent called me and they're like, hey, they want to offer you this part, and it's Star Wars. I was like, oh, shoot, I would have messed that up if I did. So it was great, and then the rest is sort of history. Yeah, we started golfing a lot. That became a very fun thing. We had so many laughs every session for how serious it got at times. When we weren't rolling, it was a lot of cracking up.
Yeah, especially when they got hungry and I would bring them bananas. Right? Oh yeah.
But Jabba the Hutt is easily my favorite. The thing that Dave told us as well is just because a character is in Star Wars, it's interesting we assume, oh, they know all of the lore the way fans do, and they're like, well, no, they're sometimes just wherever they're from. Like Ezra, when he was on Lothal, he had never been to space, and I think it's the first episode when he's like, oh, I'm in space. I think we overlook that sometimes with characters. So he was telling me that it's amazing that he would know who Jabba the Hutt is because it's such a well-known person in the galaxy. But then there's a lot of other characters that obviously would go over his head if he's just chasing around collecting buckets. Heads? Yeah. Bucket heads?
I mean, kind of.
There's never been a blaster saber in Star Wars. Like, that's the coolest. I told Dave, like, you designed the coolest lightsaber that's ever existed in Star Wars with Ezra. It's a shame that Vader broke it.
Overall, I had a great time at this convention, and it was an extremely memorable experience getting to meet, talk to, and listen to all of the things Vanessa and Taylor, or Hera and Ezra, had to say during their panel and while they were signing my Funko Pops. So if you guys are listening to this, thank you once again. It was honestly a truly unforgettable moment. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, as well as subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, or even click to watch one of my other videos, and may the Force be with you.